The betrayal. Maggie had always trusted her husband, Tom. They'd been together for years, building a life she thought was unshakable. Their home was filled with laughter and love, and they shared everything: hopes, dreams, fears. Or so she thought. It all started with a quiet shift, almost unnoticed at first. Tom became distant. He spent longer hours at work, and when he was home, his mind seemed elsewhere. Maggie convinced herself it was just the stress of life: work, bills, the kids. After all, they were a family, and family goes through phases. But then, it was the small things. His phone always face down, his sudden need to be out with friends, the little gestures of affection that seemed to disappear. Maggie tried to talk to him about it, but Tom would brush it off with a weak excuse. "I'm just tired, Maggie. You're overthinking things." But she wasn't overthinking. Deep down, something gnawed at her, a feeling that she couldn't shake. She trusted him, but now, she couldn't ignore the nagging suspicion. One evening, Maggie came home early from a trip to the grocery store. The house was eerily quiet, the front door slightly ajar. As she stepped inside, she heard the low murmur of voices coming from the living room. It sounded like Tom and someone else. She froze when she heard her sister's laughter. Her heart skipped a beat. She stepped quietly into the room, the sight before her making her knees go weak. Tom was sitting on the couch, and her younger sister, Lily, was perched on his lap. Their faces were close, their lips mere inches apart. Maggie's world shattered in that moment, the pain hitting her like a physical blow. Lily, her sister, was in her home, with her husband, Tom. Maggie's voice cracked as she spoke, her anger and hurt blending into a single, guttural word. Tom jumped, quickly pushing Lily away. He stood up, stammering, "Maggie, I can explain." But Maggie couldn't hear him. All she could see was betrayal. The two people she trusted most in the world had turned against her in the most unimaginable way. "Explain?" Maggie's voice was cold, a sharp contrast to the warmth she once felt for him. "How could you do this? How could you do this to us?" Lily stood up, her face flushed with guilt, but she didn't say anything. There was nothing left to say. Maggie turned, tears welling in her eyes, and walked out the door. She needed space, time to breathe, time to think. She couldn't look at Tom anymore, and she couldn't bear to face Lily. That night, the house felt like a stranger's home. The warmth had vanished, leaving only the cold ache of betrayal. What happened next was inevitable. The conversations were strained, the apologies never enough, and the distance between Maggie and her sister grew until there was nothing left but silence. But in the end, she realized that trust once broken could never fully be repaired. She walked away from both of them, choosing her own path over the wreckage of the life they had built.